Hi, I'm John Herrick, and I took a lift somewhere.
I know we shouldn't have to scream that we're atheists. We don't have non-astrologers and all that. But with the religious people taking over the world, we can either speak up or be pushed into a corner.
I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist.
From your favorite water cooler around the office, this is Left for the Valley. My name is Kevin, and I am your seagull of a host. That means I fly in, make lots of noise, shit all over everything, and then leave. Joining me today is the office team prone to insult. I guess you got a concussion from bouncing your head off the glass ceiling, Nancy.
Oh, glass ceiling. There you go. A little crack here and there. It always is good.
When he's in the office, he's lost in thought. After all, it's unfamiliar territory to him, Tyler. Opening a beer.
Figured that'd be a good intro for today.
He does the work of three men. Larry, Curly, and Mo. Our friend Kevin's back. Hey, Kev.
Hello. Glad to be here. Hi, Kev. Love your name, by the way.
Oh, I know. We get a great name.
Not this shit.
We should just change the name. Instead of Left of the Valley, it's just the Kevins are taking over.
The Kevins and those two other people that show up sometimes.
And we are here to pump you up.
Guys, welcome back. Today we're gonna have a very interesting show about. We have a very. You want to talk about our guest that'll be coming up, Tyler? You want to say a few things?
Yeah. Okay. So Jon Hammond, just like everybody else, is a member of my group, discussion group for intellectuals. And
hey, you using this podcast to push your platform?
Absolutely,
what?
Self-promotion all the way.
We also have T-shirts in the back. And,
Now, Jon Hammond, is that the guy who built Jurassic Park?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
I saw him post in a different group where he had kind of an intro where he was explaining that his parents were anthropologists, and he got really into where Judaism came from with the Mesopotamian belief system, and the similarities between the Epic of Gilgamesh flood and Noah's Ark and all that kind of stuff. So we talked a little bit in that group, and I added him as a friend and posted him in my group, and turns out that he has his own little YouTube thing called The Gospel of John. And
so the Gospel according to John is what we'll do today.
That's what it's called. And he reads stuff from the Bible, but he makes it absolutely hilarious. Like, very vulgar, but hilarious as well. So
before we get to John, we'll do a bit of chit-chat. Did you guys know...
yes.
We have to talk about U.S. politics, right? We just have to. Remember Uri Geller?
Yeah.
You remember Uri Geller?
Sure.
He was that charlatan that used to bend spoons.
Bend spoons, yeah.
And he was debunked by our friend James Randi on the Johnny Carson show. He came out of whatever rock he crawled under last time.
With a spoon?
With a spoon. A bent spoon. And he made a prediction about the U.S. election. He said the next president is going to be Donald Trump. And do you know how he found that out?
how?
The amount of letters in his name?
That's right. Because Donald Trump has 11 letters. And for some reason, 11 is a powerful number.
I tell you, in this election, that makes just as much sense as every other poll that's going on.
So he went on to give other examples of famous people of power with 11 letters, like John Kennedy. And not John F. Kennedy, but just John Kennedy and George W. Bush.
Really?
Yeah. So
Sounds like some pretty solid science there.
it totally is. So I
Yeah.
really think we should just stop chasing these.
Do you realize how much money that saves during a campaign? I mean, if someone wants to run for office in the States, or is it just confined to the States, or he'll do this with any country?
Well, I think we should test that because if you don't know, Tyler Laguerre
I have 11.
has 11 letters.
I was just going to say, I should run for prime minister.
You just not. Oh, but then if you nominate people from each side that have 11 letters in their name, then what happens?
Then you flip a dice or a coin or whatever.
Then you have to.
Tiebreaker.
You have the magic cue ball.
That's
The
right.
magic 8 ball.
But
So-
he didn't. Yuri didn't cover what happens if you have two candidates with 11 letters in their name. That didn't occur to him that might be a
You
possibility.
need to read the chicken entrails at that point.
She leaves in this case.
Well, as
Kev.
long as it's scientific, who cares, right?
And while we're on the topic of U.S. election, this coming Monday,
Oh
we have
man.
the what do I call it? The rumble
Katie
in
bar the
stupid,
door. That's
the
right.
Dumb and Dumber, the debate between Hillary and Donald
Oh,
Trump.
my door is locked. My phone is off. Don't even
I
come
have a-
near the door and wave at me.
I have a feeling that's going to bomb
hooked.
for some reason.
Oh my goodness, guys!
Holy, that's going to
Do you
bomb.
hear
The
that?
whole thing's going to bomb.
Well, I think Hillary's going to mop the floor with him.
Well, Hillary's name has 13 letters in it, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
11. Donald's going to win.
13's bad luck, right?
Yeah.
If
Well,
you're triskaidekaphobic.
It's if he wins, it's going to be a pretty short presidency because he's going to get impeached maybe even before he takes the oath, or maybe 2 minutes after. So whether he wins or not at this point's moot.
Tax evasion.
He's not gonna make it through. Yeah, tax and fraud.
Yeah, it's going to be. If you
It's a
want to turn off-
toss up at this point.
I'm,
Whether
I'm
it's
not
a
sure I want to
10.
lower my IQ any lower than it is. I might not watch. So anyway, you ready to
Well,
go? Nancy?
I'll watch and give you a report, so not to worry.
Let's go with this day in history.
Okay, let's do that. It's me that's doing that. Then I guess I'm ready. And this day in history, as we know for now, is a roundup of those events and people that altered and illuminated the days between September the 19th to September the 25th. And we're going to do something a little bit different today. I love trying
You've been going
something-
off script for the past couple of shows. Where are you going with this? You just taking over.
Well, traditional just goes so far, and then you have to be innovative. So today we're going to be a little innovative in that I'm going to run through some of the fun dates between the 19th and the 25th, and then we're going to devote the bulk of our history segment to one event that does take in history, but I think it covers a lot of ground that listeners and everybody's really going to enjoy.
Not about baseball, is
yeah,
it?
we'll start. At least my fingers are crossed here. No, it's going to be a lot of fun. September the 19th was Fall Astronomy Day. The 20th was Universal Children's Day in Germany. The 21st was International Day of Peace. By the way, did anybody celebrate or do anything for the International Day of Peace?
I started a war.
Yeah, appropriate. And then we come to September the 22nd, which was One Web Day, which is an annual day of Internet celebration and awareness, which started in 2006, and the first day of fall, which was a chilly day.
Oh, it's done. Summer's over.
I know.
You didn't even see it. You had a week and a half of good sun.
I know. It's not my favorite. I don't mind fall. It's when winter just sort of creeps up. There was a really cute cartoon. It's a Snoopy, Charlie Brown cartoon, and Charlie Brown is talking to Woodstock, and they're talking about the seasons and how fast summer went by and how it just flies by. And Charlie Brown says, "Summer flies, winter walks." And that's just the way it is. We're coming up to the long slushy
I was
walk
gonna
in our
say,
boots.
You're in Saskatchewan, it crawls.
Exactly. Anyway, coming up to September the 22nd, it was the day of an award celebration that I'd never heard of before, and I don't know whether you or any of our listeners, and it's called the Ig Nobel Prizes. Have you ever heard of the Ig Nobel Prizes? And they are an annual ceremony at Harvard. And what it is, it's a silly celebration of seemingly dubious science. And it's run by a satirical journal called Annals of Improbable Research.
She
And you
said
could-
anals.
Yeah, annals of what did it do? Annals.
I think it goes either way.
Annals and
You've
annals.
actually done some important work, Nancy.
Annals and annals. That's true.
This is quality radio.
I
guys,
may
by
have
the
to
way.
stop while I'm ahead here. Anyway, the main objective is to honor research that first makes you laugh and then makes you think. And it's all in good fun. And the honorees frequently travel to the ceremony on their own dime to accept the awards. So the winners are announced, and it's on a live webcast, so you can go to the website of the Ig Nobel Prizes, or you can go to YouTube and see the whole thing live. So this was the 26th year. We've never heard about it, and it was the 26th year. So from now on, we are going to follow it.
They found out why shower curtains go in instead of out. That was one of the prizes from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Like turn the water on, yeah.
That's how, there you go, Kevin. So the name is a play on words. The Ig Nobel, which is Ig, which is characterized by baseness, lowness, or meanness, and the Nobel Prize. So it is the Ig Nobel, not ignoble. So it's Ig Nobel. And the awards are presented for all of these discoveries that cannot or should not be reproduced. So the award ceremony is generally closed with the words, if you didn't win a prize, and especially if you did, better luck next time. So here's this year's crop of winners. Those who attended, this is really good, those who attended the ceremony were given just 60 seconds for their acceptance speeches, which is a long-standing rule that is vigorously enforced. So the Oscars could take a lesson from that. So the reproduction prize went to a group for studying the effects of wearing polyester, cotton, or wool trousers on the sex life of rats, and then for conducting similar tests with human males. That went into the annals, and that was a real.
Can I sign up for those experiments, or you just get paid to have sex? Sounds good.
Yeah, but you have to have sex with the rats.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
You just kill everything, Kevin.
Other Kevin.
There were two, actually, there were two papers published on this research, one in 1993 and one in 1992, but he just got the award. It was delivered posthumously. The Economics Prize went to a group for assessing the perceived personalities of rocks from a sales and marketing perspective.
Pet rocks or non?
Pet rocks. And that went to a trio of researchers. That was really funny. The physics prize went to a group of scientists for discovering why white-haired horses are the most horsefly-proof horses, and for discovering why dragonflies are fatally attracted to black tombstones. They did.
Something I didn't know.
They did the research on that. I could actually go into the research, but it's so funny just to give you the titles of the prizes.
Is this Wikipedia? Or?
No, these are actual research studies that were conducted.
I was just wondering where you found it, because I could go read this shit.
The physics prize went for the chemistry prize went to Volkswagen for solving the problem of excessive automobile pollution emissions by automatically electromechanically producing fewer emissions whenever cars are being tested. So that was kind of a black eye.
Yeah.
That was a black eye for them. The medicine prize went for discovering that if you have an itch on the left side of your body, you can relieve it by looking into a mirror and scratching the right side of your body, and vice versa.
Interesting.
The biology prize, there were two in that category. For one, living in the wild was at different times a badger, an otter, a deer, a fox, and a bird. And for creating prosthetic extensions of his limbs that whoops, wait a minute, we gotta get that a little bit mixed up here. The biology, let me get back to this one here. My goodness, I'm gonna have a problem with the biology. We'll leave that.
Skip
we'll
the biology.
Leave that go. Yeah, we'll leave that go.
It's all Greek to me anyway.
We'll leave that go for a minute. The psychology prize went to a group for asking 1,000 liars how often they lie and for deciding whether to believe the answers. The Peace Prize went to a scholarly study called On the Reception and Detection of Pseudo-Profound Bullshit, which The Literature Prize went to a 3-volume autobiographical work about the pleasures of collecting flies that are dead and flies that are not yet dead. There's a collection that you don't want to have a tour through for sure. And the Perception Prize, for investigating whether things look different when you bend over and view them between your legs. As opposed to...
Oh, the jokes are abound.
The jokes are abound for that. Absolutely. So there they are. And it's just wonderful, to think that the journal discovered all of these over the 26 years, and they actually have a ceremony at Harvard and deliver the prizes are delivered by actual Nobel Prize laureates.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like the
inquisitive mind wants to know.
It's like the Croc Duck Awards, eh?
Okay, so now we go back. I found that the Nobel Prize in Biology. Sorry for the problem. The Nobel Prize in Biology honored several wild animals such as goats and badgers. 2 scientists won the award for separate projects. One of the biologists, Charles Foster, lived in the wild at different times. He lived in the wild as a badger, an otter, a deer, a fox, and a bird. It was a swift, if anybody cares. And according to the statement, that it was his research as to how it felt living in the wild as those different animals. And then the other fellow won for creating prosthetic extensions of his limbs that allowed him to move in the manner of and spend time roaming hills in the company of goats. So he became...
Was he Scottish?
He became the goat man. And he dressed up as a goat, complete with a prosthetic stomach for digesting grass and artificial legs, and went across the Alps and living with other goats.
Did he shit in the woods?
Yeah,
that's a bear part.
Bet he did.
Oh, right. That's not a goat.
Anyway, so that's just sort of a fun history going through the research this time. And that, dear listeners, and I'm sure you are ready to bring this to a close, another passing parade of interesting, mundane, unusual, and occasionally bizarre events and people that make up this day in history.
Oh, my God.
I felt pretty enriched by that. That's cool. My day is much better.
I'm not sure the audience would agree with that one.
Enriched like uranium.
I'm not fissionable. I don't know.
Well, let's take a break to gather our thoughts about that. We'll be right back right after this.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm the Supreme Irreverend Dr. Randy Tyson from the Legion of Reason Diversion. Join me and my co-hosts, Christine Shelska, Twyla, and Nate Phelps, as we explore issues at the intersection of atheism, humanism, and skepticism. Topics range from alternative medicine to the interference of religion in public policy. We often have special guests to help us understand the topic du jour. Previous guests include biologist Jerry Coyne, ex-Muslim author Ali Rizvi, philosopher Peter Boghossian, and the late physicist Victor Stanger. You can watch us on the Legion of Reason YouTube channel or subscribe to the audio version through your favorite podcatcher such as iTunes or Stitcher. And don't forget to like the Legion of Reason Facebook page.
Here's an excerpt from Our Constitution, The Way It Was, by Dr. Madeleine O'Hare.
Seemingly, no one knew just what to do. There was no clear-cut program. Some wanted to try to continue to negotiate with the British government. Others wanted to continue the armed revolt in the hopes of forcing the king and parliament to remedy their grievances. There was no one, apparently, who had the vision to call for complete severance of all political ties with Britain and to found a new nation. The situation remained stalemated until the end of the year. Then, in January 1775, Thomas Paine's pamphlet, Common Sense, came off the press. It was like a fresh wind clearing away a fog. In the simple yet forceful language that characterizes all his writings, Paine showed the absurdity of continuing a relationship of colonies to a mother country. Why, he asked, should the colonies, already peopled with 3 million inhabitants and destined to expand to cover a vast continent, be ruled from a small island 3,000 miles away? Why continue to be subjects of a tyrant king when the way was open to be citizens of a free republic? This pamphlet spread like wildfire. The small presses of the time could not keep up with the demand. Hundreds of thousands of copies were issued and penetrated to every colony in a short time. Paine's arguments were unanswerable. They left no middle ground. All talk of compromise and further petitions to Parliament died out.
Find this audiobook and many more at atheistaudiobooks.com.
What is secular humanism?
Critical thinking. Knowledge is freedom. Freedom from ignorance and its offspring, fear.
The BC Humanist Association has been active in the Vancouver area for over 25 years. We offer a friendly and welcoming place to make new friends, as well as free educational lectures. We invite you to join us any Sunday at 10 a.m. in the Oak Ridge Senior Center. Please visit our website for more details, bchumanist.ca.
And we're back. You can't be talking when the music's coming in like that, dude. We have to somewhat pretend to be professionals.
I don't shut up sober.
Famous last word. All right, so today we'll be talking to Jon. What's his last name? Jon Hammond. Right. Sorry, Jon. About all his projects. But before we do that, let's do our segment that we always like to hear about. Another brilliant moment brought to you by religion. Oh yes, the weird and wacky world of religion. This one comes out of the UK. It's kind of funny, actually. A school is apologizing after students were given a homophobic math test.
Uh-oh.
Now, you think of math as, math doesn't really have a political view or anything like that, but apparently math does in the UK. A math test preaching against same-sex marriage by claiming that God intended people to be straight caused concern and outrage at a grammar school in Buckinghamshire in the UK. LBC reports pupils at the Royal Grammar School in High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire, were shocked to find a question on their math test that said, pull out your brains, guys, let's do some math. In the town, 70% of the men are married to 90% of the women, and each marriage is between one man and one woman as God intended when He made humans male and female. What percentage of the adult population are married? Wow.
Well,
that was actually in the question.
It's that little, is God intended reference that suddenly made math religious.
So after numerous complaints and attention from the British media, the Royal Grammar School in High Wycombe apologized for the offensive and gratuitous preaching. Speaking to Bucks Free Press earlier this week, headmaster Philip Wayne said, "I'm sorry on behalf of the whole school community of governors, staff, and boys for any offense this caused."
I mean, did the instructor apologize? I mean, other than the school, did the instructor apologize?
Well, according to reports, the anti-gay question was part of the test to a higher level math student and written by a former full-time teacher. The retired teacher was volunteering, air quotes, at the school when he handed out the test. So apparently the volunteer will not be returning to the school.
Well, he just thought he'd work and, no one would notice. He just worked one little sentence, if he just hadn't put his God intended, the whole thing, that's what.
I have a comment.
Uh-oh.
No. It just reminded me of the story. I think it was North Korea. One of their math tests was like, if one grenade can kill 4 people, how many Americans can 8 grenades kill?
Well,
seriously, it was it was talking about killing Americans. I was like,
well, Americans are bigger than Koreans, so it might take like 1 grenade for every 2 Americans instead of 4.
It's just that kind of like subliminal propaganda, They're trying to just kind of sneak it into kids' brains that being gay is abnormal or whatever.
And that changes a whole lot of dynamic too. If that question happened in Utah, for example, would you have the same answer? You know, because, you know, being Mormon, so you're a man, so you're probably married to 4 or 5 wives.
Yeah, right? Can you imagine Mormon algebra? If Fred has 4 wives,
and she'd be
Adam
positive.
has 8. How many children do they have according to national statistics?
I think I like that
1.8.
math a lot better than, you know, if someone has 3 apples and someone has 6 apples, and one apple sells for 6 cents and the other one sells for a dime. How many are left at the end of George's lunch? You know, I think it's much more.
My favorite one.
No, if this guy has 3 child brides and this guy
That's
has
right.
this many child brides, how many are left in the end?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It makes math much more exciting.
If one woman can
Not
give birth
politically
to
correct,
one
but-
baby in 9 months, then 2 women can give birth to how many babies in 9 months?
I think we ought to do a
Yeah.
whole new math book because it's not politically correct, but a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've seen that. That means that I can have a baby in 4.5 months. Awesome.
Right. Yeah. I think I said that to you.
I think that was you. Yeah.
So what if they went to Scotland? How would they decide to go with that? You know, so if one man marries a sheep and 2 women, and the sheep produces a.
I don't know. What does Stonehenge say?
Somebody call Uri Geller now. Get him on the phone. He can give us the answer to that. Well, thank you so much, guys, for your enlightening view on this. So let's. You're spilling beer all over my floor.
Damn it, Kevin! Stop spilling beer.
Jesus,
Kevin.
I have a question. I have a question I wanted to bring up though that I thought was kind of important before, and then Kevin.
Hold on. We have to play
Hold
some
on.
kind of disclaimer.
You gotta wait for Tyler.
The comments of Tyler are not necessarily those of the Valley subsidiaries.
We're talking about the Ig Nobel Prizes, but I was just having this conversation the other day, and I see it in groups a lot where people are like, "If you can disprove evolution, then let me know when you get your Nobel Prize." I looked. I don't think they give Nobel Prizes for evolutionary biology.
No, but if you want
Eat
an
my
Ig
shorts.
Nobel, if you want an Ig Nobel Prize, you got to have shot it because you can
I think the
you can
show has
submit.
a shot at the Ig Nobel Prize at this point.
They take submissions.
No, but I see it a lot. I've said it myself, to be perfectly honest with you, where you talk to creationists and you say, "Well, when you disprove evolution, let me know when you win your Nobel Prize." I don't think that's accurate. I don't think they even give Nobel Prizes for
Idiocy.
that kind of biology. My understanding, it's like physics, chemistry, medicine.
No, but if you
No, but they do in literature.
No, but
do
if
they
you
do one? They have a Nobel Prize in literature.
But if you came with a way to disprove biology, you don't think they would give you a Nobel Prize? Are
No,
you kidding?
I don't think so. I've never seen any Nobel Prizes given.
You've never seen any Nobel Prizes at all
for evolution either. I don't even think it's.
Well, there would be if we've been thinking the wrong thing hypothetically for that long, and somebody were to come and go, "Oh, here's the obvious evidence that says it's wrong."
I don't
they
think
would
so.
Give you,
I don't
they
think
would
so
give you a-
because they've never given Nobel Prizes for evolutionary discoveries in general, and they have given Nobel Prizes for Big Bang discoveries like the cosmic microwave background radiation, even though they discovered it by accident.
There's a Nobel Prize for biology.
For medicine, I think.
But it's all tied together.
Yeah,
the reason
I don't know.
medicine works is because
I'm really
of evolution.
skeptical that you would even get a Nobel Prize if you could disprove evolution.
Well, why don't you disprove evolution and then?
I just wanted to throw that out there. Maybe somebody can message me and give me the info because I looked it up. I spent like probably a good hour. And, I can usually find things really quickly.
You just derailed the entire show with that comment.
I had
Thanks
to.
a lot,
it was
Tyler.
really bugging me.
Worst episode ever. It just showed that I was on the internet within minutes, registering my disgust throughout the world.
Yeah. Me telling you to get new sound effects is biting me in the ass.
Oh, I had that one for a long time, actually. All right. Well, let's get John on the line. All right. Our next guest is Jon Hammond, and he's essentially a YouTube atheist, and he's been making a splash out there with some of his recent videos. They're quite something to watch. So please welcome Jon Hammond. Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How are you guys?
Good, good.
Nice to have you with us. This is Nancy.
And this
Hi,
is
Nancy.
Kevin.
Nice to meet you.
We're just not going to start introducing ourselves to each one of to John there.
That's our live audience. We promise them sandwiches as long as they clap first.
Yes, exactly.
What kind of sandwiches?
We hold them hostage.
What kind of sandwiches?
John, Some of our audience obviously might not know your videos. Would you be so kind to give us a Reader's Digest version of who you are and how you came to do all this?
All right, let's see. How do I break this down? Bible reading with commentary, like almost like a literary critique of Genesis, and it kind of evolved from there. There was a steep learning curve. I didn't really know what I was doing making videos at first, so they only start getting good like around 12 or 13, and then by episode, I think it was 17 or 18, I found out about like the Bible Reloaded and stuff, and was like, wow, these guys actually do it better than I do. So I'm gonna branch out a little. I started using more like images and sort of went a different direction. I summarized Gilgamesh and did a couple of like little mini skits, and that's pretty much where I was taking that.
Okay. Well, let's take a minute here. We have one of the videos, Ezekiel. The Gospel according to John presents Ezekiel. Let's put in a minute of that, see what that sounds like.
All right. By the rivers of Babylon, there I sat down, and there holy crap, what the fuck is that? Wow, what the hell is that thing? Oh look, a wheel within a wheel. The perfect visual metaphor for something convoluted. Dude, I think my mandrakes just kicked in.
Hey Ezekiel, how's it going?
Oh, hey God, what's up?
Oh, you know, just chilling. Listen dude, I need you to be my new prophet. Here, eat this scroll.
Is it gluten-free?
Just eat it!
Wow, it tastes as sweet as honey. That's kind of unexpected.
I'm sending you to the Israelites to prophecy for them. They're a very rebellious people, so they won't listen to you.
Are you hardening their hearts by any chance?
Maybe.
Okay, so what do you want me to say to them?
At first, nothing.
Nothing?
Yep, at first I'm gonna tie you up and make your tongue stick to the roof of your mouth. But when the time comes, you better fucking prophecy like crazy, dude.
Well, okay, but if they're such a rebellious people, how am I gonna get through to them?
Performance art.
Performance art?
What, would you prefer interpretive dance?
Not really.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Thanks.
And that was just a minute of that Ezekiel, where you basically kind of acting out your interpretation of what would have happened with the prophet Ezekiel.
Yeah, more or less. I kind of inject my own sense of humor into it, but it really is kind of a faithful adaptation of what's being said. So, I don't know. I had fun with that. I mostly do comedic videos, but occasionally something more serious.
That's what I was kind of wondering there. Did you take like creative license on anything, or did you I mean, obviously you had to. I don't think there was anything about dancing or interpretive dance, but
yeah, the interpretive dance and like gluten-free reference are just kind of contemporary.
Those are Genesis 12, absolutely.
That was there, I do recall. Yeah.
No, I think it's kosher. He says, not gluten-free.
Kosher. Yeah. Celebrate, celibate.
We'll see. It's updated for a modern audience, but it's still saying basically the same thing.
I've listened to every single episode and I just die laughing every time, and people are like, what are you laughing at? And then I explain it, they're like, that's not funny, and I'm like, you know what, fuck off.
Critics everywhere. So John, I guess one of the things we would like to talk about you today, with you today, is about how you can compare some of these ancient myths and realize there's a lot of parallels in between them.
Oh, yes, there certainly are.
Would you care to elaborate, sir?
Well, okay, so my mom was an anthropologist. So growing up, when she was telling me stories, she was telling me stories from like ancient Sumer and Babylon and Akkad and the Assyrians and all these types of people. So I heard more original versions of the stories before I ever read the Bible, and didn't like realize that there were people that still believed in these things at first.
I renew my objection to this pointless endeavor. Informally now and by affidavit later. Time permitting.
I thought it was just kind of a literary iteration and how people take stories and make them their own as they pass them through cultures. Like, I didn't realize how much ego and shit people attach to this sort of thing. So yeah, it completely took me by surprise. Anyway, so there are lots of parallels, a shit ton of parallels, especially in Genesis.
Because a lot of people go out there, they think that the story of Jesus and the story of Genesis, they think it's all original, and you're saying it's not.
Now, who's responsible? I say, who's responsible for this unwarranted attack on my person?
Like Adam and Eve and their creation, like the Tower of Babel, and like there's so many different versions of the deluge that came from the Sumerian version. I mean, I realize there's, other flood myths from around the world too, but like the one in the Bible very much is based on the Mesopotamian ones, and like it's pretty clear that it is if you examine some of the like finer details rather than the more generalized similarities.
You mean like the serpent in the garden, and then the releasing of, I guess, birds in general from the ark?
Oh, yeah. Especially because it's, very specific types of birds, and they're, like, released in specific orders. And those are I feel like those are small details that wouldn't really be present unless a story was being based directly on something rather than being differing accounts of the same event written by different people.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to accidentally talk about releasing birds to find land.
Yeah.
After a flood on a boat. I mean, coincidence? I think not.
Significant.
Especially the geographical proximity and whatnot, and obviously the Jews came from that area, so yeah, no. That's like saying Mormonism wasn't stolen from Christianity.
I did another video on Mormonism too.
Oh, good. I gotta check that out.
We know for sure that Noah's flood was obviously based on the epics of Gilgamesh, which in turn was actually based on another older story, which escapes me now.
Do you remember what that would have been?
It was sort of Gilgamesh and the Noah account are both based on the Sumerian flood version, which I think it would be. Damn it, it's not coming to me. I think it's Ziasudra in that version.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
It's either Ziasudra or Atrahasis. I get them confused sometimes.
Yeah, I can't imagine how.
It's the same damn story. But not clearly, Christopher.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, sort of.
You drink fast.
Way to go to derail the show, guys.
Shouldn't have brought beer to the show. Sorry.
Just derail the show.
Zuseda? Is that how you say that? Or
I think it's Ziasudra.
Isudra?
Ziasudra. Yeah.
So,
or Atrahasis.
Do we want to go into where Judaism came from or no?
Sure. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge fan of Israel Finkelstein, who obviously lives in Israel, and he doesn't really have a biased point of view. We have Maximists, who are the archaeological equivalent of, whatever they dig up. They look for a passage in the Bible to confirm it, and then we have the minimalists who say 100% of the Bible is bullshit. And then we have people like Israel Finkelstein, who are kind of in the middle ground, and kind of, they actually stick with the real decent evidence. And I guess the idea was that, we have these polytheists living, in Mesopotamia or Egypt or wherever it was, and then you're going to have to correct me on these numbers here, but the Egyptian state collapses after the whole Sea People event. I think it's around 1208. Either way, famine, all this shit happens. The Egyptian state collapses, and the Canaanites kind of, spread out, and they've got this group, the Israelites or whatever the hell they were at that point, and they just go back and fabricate their history, but they kind of link it to real events. Like, they look at Jericho and say, oh, that place was destroyed, so let's make up a story about our own ancestors. It's kind of like me fabricating my own history and saying, well, my great-grandfather was a war hero in World War I. And then people say, well, there's evidence for World War I, therefore your grandfather must have been real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get that.
Right.
Like fictional history or historical fiction or whatever they call it. And I guess these...
Revisionist history?
Yeah, pretty much. Like Holocaust denial. That kind of thing.
Basically they're like, okay, we're moving in because our God says that's cool, so yeah, we're in charge now.
Yeah, they had to make up a history. I mean, they clearly did not
Yeah, and
conquer Canaan.
if you borrow from real events and you modify them
Yeah.
a bit, it kind of gives them a bit of legitimacy.
Yeah, if you look, if I think maybe I've said this on the show before, I'm not sure, but there's been multiple cities that are listed in the Bible as having been destroyed by the old Joshua campaign after Moses died. Some of these cities were destroyed like 1,000 years apart. So apparently Joshua had a fucking time machine. But
he's just very slow moving.
But they didn't know back then that you would be able to radiometric date these events. Clearly they didn't know that, so they kind of...
Also, there would have been like an advantage of like psychological warfare. If you went into war and everyone thought that you had some supreme being behind you that was going to flatten their city with a wind, you know, like it would psych them out.
Well, it's more like your country being destroyed, and then you can just fuck off and make up your own shit.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody can disprove you because everything went to hell.
And it's written after the fact, too, like
Exactly.
significantly.
Yeah,
so they can say whatever they want.
A lot of Christians will... Well, maybe Jews too. I don't want to speak on behalf of Jews because I don't really know any, and Nancy's sitting across from me, so I don't want. But the Merneptah Stela is the pharaoh that basically said, well, I captured these people, and I captured those people, and I killed these people. Oh, and by the way, I completely destroyed Israel. Their seed exists no more. So I think that's kind of the idea, is that there was this group of Israelites, or whatever you want to call it, living within Canaan, like the Canaanite society. And then after the state collapsed, they just kind of went on their own and, fabricated their own history. But if you think about it, you got to convert the people who are around you, right? So it's just like how the Christians...
They be like, their idols be snares to us or something.
Well, it's like how the Christians included a lot of Roman stuff.
Oh,
like
yes,
the virgin birth and all these different things that were common within Greek society. I think that's what the Jews did. They didn't just invent their own random religion. They stole from the Mesopotamian beliefs in order to get converts. Does that make sense? Like, that's why there's so many pagan themes within Christianity, is because how do you convert the Romans to Christianity? You add Roman elements to Christianity. And I think that's kind of the same...
Make it more palatable to the Romans.
Yeah,
right?
palatable. That's the word. Thank you. So I think that's kind of the same thing that happened with the Jews and stealing from the Mesopotamian beliefs, and that's why we have, similarities between the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Noah's Ark and all that other shit.
Doesn't it ring to you kind of like that game of hands where you got the hand over top of the hand over top of the hand? Whoever's hand is on top at the end is the winner?
Yeah.
So you destroy the symbols of everyone else's gods and you replace them with your own symbols of your god, etc., etc., etc.
So I'm wondering, John, what your, I guess, favorite or most interesting similarities would be, aside from the most common, which would obviously be the flood story from the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Noah's Ark. I understand there are some similarities with the Adam and Eve story, but if you could just kind of
what
go
are your
into
favorites?
that'd be great.
Give us your top 10 best ones, John.
Yeah.
If the top 10 similarities.
Top 10, we're going to be here for like 2 hours.
Because, I'm so much more interested in the differences, especially similarities that are also different. Like, the serpent is present in, both the Sumerian and the biblical version, but in the Sumerian version, it's Enki, and he's kind of the good guy, giving them sort of a free will concept. It's like only later when that's been adopted into the Southern mythology that it becomes, he's being the bad guy.
Because they didn't want people to think for themselves.
Well, it totally translates, because when you read the accounts of Genesis, the serpent, which by the way is not Satan, because it never says it's Satan, it just says the serpent.
Right.
Actually comes across kind of like a good guy. He really does. He's like, no.
The Liberator.
Yeah, he totally does.
Yeah, but Paradise Lost by John
You say that in
Miller
Latin.
Luciferus.
There you go.
So what other similarities or differences you like to point out, John?
Can we start with Adam and Eve? Because that's kind of the
Well, we all did, didn't we?
Start with the snake.
I started with a monkey.
Yeah, that's a joke, son. Don't you get it? I made a funny, son, and you're not laughing.
All right, well, A lot of it's
I can edit that out.
A lot of it's fairly like surface, because there's only so much that's even similar about the like initial creation versions. But in terms of like depictions of the garden itself and like things that are in it, that's very similar. And then it just kind of moves on. There's different versions of the Tower of Babel, and obviously the flood story crops up a lot.
There's not a lot of people talk about the Tower of Babel.
Yeah.
It's really one of those stories that
Isn't
doesn't...
it Babel?
Babel.
I'm pretty sure it was evidence for ancient aliens or some shit at one point.
What similarities did you find with the Tower of Babel? Yourself, John.
In both of them, they're building a tower to reach the heavens, and they're afraid that they're going to be spread all over the world, and it's a story that doesn't really make sense in light of what we know about how languages develop, but it does kind of encapsulate probably the people of the time's fears about living in societies that are dependent on these systems and how they can collapse and things like that.
Which other civilization had a story similar to Babel? Was that the...
Babylon and Sumer and like all of those city-states all had their ziggurat as a central feature of their city.
Just to make a point of it, because I think I lost that at the beginning of the conversation. When you talk about the Sumerians and versus the early Jews, how much of a time difference is there between the two civilizations here?
Yeah.
Shit, like
thousands, yeah.
It's hard to say since it's really hard to pin down when Judaism actually starts.
Good point.
But in terms of when the cuneiform tablets are being made in ancient Sumer, it's probably about 6,000 years ago from today.
Hey, that's when the Earth was created.
So you're talking like 5,000 BCE?
6,000 years ago? 4,000 BCE?
As far as I know, the first ones come around 4,000 BCE.
Okay, my understanding, which is poor at the moment, I'm kind of inebriated, but it was like 3,000 something BCE, and the Bible, the Old Testament, whatever, as far as I'm concerned, is less than 3,000 years old.
Oh, easily. I think, like,
I know they try to claim that Abraham lived in 1800 BCE. Fuck off. He ain't got shit about him for like 2,000 years afterwards.
Yeah, they had their oral history and stuff, but like the Old Testament itself was written down to like 600 BC or so.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of the idea, is that the Old Testament was written during the Babylonian exile and this and that. And most people kind of don't get that, because the Bible says Abraham lived, was it 1800 BCE? Yeah, 1800 BCE.
I don't think the Bible says that.
No, it does.
It was even before that, because it's like... It's like Moses' time, sometime between 18 and 16, I think.
Something like that. And then
so
Moses
like 400
like,
more years from now.
Moses is like 1,300, 1,500.
Really?
Kind of depends on how you want to...
Hold on.
But we don't have any texts until hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years later, so...
Yeah, so we can't really say. We can say what they say, which is almost certainly not true.
There is nothing about Abraham at all until well over 1,000 years after he supposedly lived, which is why most scholars consider him to be a fictional character. All of the patriarchs.
I would think so.
Yeah, there's just no evidence for it.
When you see it in that sort of context, like the whole Bible was...
Speaking to the mic, dude, I'm not hearing you.
Sorry. The whole Bible was an oral tradition of one particular people, right? It has to be, because otherwise who did they marry, like Cain and Abel and all that stuff, right? Abraham being...
Yeah, they have to go to Nod, and there would presumably have to be people there already.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense.
You know how like sometimes they do like composition characters for a movie, so that they don't have to have like 10 different people acting in a movie. They'll put the best of traits into one person, right? That sort of sounds what like Abraham would have been.
Totally.
We love God, therefore let's cut off a piece of our penis.
Good idea.
How the fuck does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
Maybe there were health benefits back then, but I think that Moses is probably about 1% true, and Abraham is about 0% true. That's my personal opinion, based on the evidence. I think that Moses...
Yeah, Moses is probably loosely based on whoever led the Canaanite exodus into that area.
You mean out? You mean out of that? You mean out of that area?
I didn't get that.
You mean out of that area?
There
was no invasion of the Canaanites.
No, there wasn't.
There was a big ass fucking volcano where people just ran like hell.
Probably based on whoever led a small group of people into Canaan, and then we're like, okay, so we got to make up this fictional history now.
Did you just say Canaan?
Yeah.
Have I been pronouncing this shit wrong publicly for years and years?
Most everybody does. I mean, it has a double A, so I pronounce it with a long
I call it Canaan.
Yeah, most everyone does.
Yeah, at least. Well, I figured Canaan was just too obvious, right? Like, I'm gonna be smart and I'm gonna call it Canaan, and now you're telling me I'm pronouncing it wrong.
I don't know. It looks to me like it should be Canaan.
Well, I'd like to highly recommend the Nova PBS documentary called "The Bible's Buried Secrets," and it's mostly Israel Finkelstein. No, I showed it to you, and you gave me a review.
Oh, well, that's probably why it sounds familiar.
Hey, John, have you only done like the Book of Genesis, or have you done like other epic stories throughout the Bible and stuff like that?
Okay, so I've done from, in the beginning, to right before Joseph's portion of the story cropped up, and then I was like, okay, well, I am going to have to finish Genesis eventually, but I kind of want to take this in a different direction.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, I know, I'll do Ezekiel and Gilgamesh and maybe start doing some from the New Testament, since it's like, called Gospel According to John, and that would make a bit more sense than what I'm doing.
Self-serving, right? I'd love to see what you'd do with Job, though. Like, that's apparently the oldest book written in the Bible. That'd be kind of cool.
Job.
He sees a dragon.
I could have so much fun with that idea.
What's the date on Job? What's the date on Job, manuscript-wise?
I don't know, but it predates all the other ones.
Yeah, well, if I know.
I don't know, but...
Well, according to Tyler, I think it's the 1800s somewhere. That's the odds for everything right now.
I don't know about Job. I'm not sure about that.
Well, right here I have a clip from
I'm guessing Genesis probably is the oldest.
I have a clip here from the Epics of Gilgamesh, according to John, Part 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you said from there's 1 minute in there that kind of really explains what the Epics of Gilgamesh were all about.
Excellent.
Is that what you said? Are you saying there, John?
It's the scene is where Gilgamesh is in the underworld crossing the river of death that, of course, runs through the center of paradise. And the boatman, Urshanabi, is telling him the story of the flood from the Sumerian perspective as he's journeying to the island where the Ancient Immortal One lives so that he can hopefully gain immortality.
That sounds... The boatman and all that,
that sounds like
really,
Styx. Yeah,
really, I was going to say, it sounds really Greek, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It does sound very Greek.
Okay, well, let's listen to this and let's talk about it after.
And so Gilgamesh and Urshanabi the boatman crossed the river of death.
Long ago, Enlil was just as much of a dick as he is now. He wanted to wipe out mankind because they were complaining too much about being slaves. So he told the other gods not to warn mankind of the flood he was sending to destroy them. But the god Enki disobeyed and warned King Ziusutra of the coming deluge. When the storm hits, even the gods are frightened away. Water poured from the sky and swept over the land. But the king and his family and the beasts of the field were safe inside of the ark. At first, Enlil is furious, but after some coaxing, he makes Ziusutra and his wife immortal. Hey, I know that story. That's the whole reason I'm here, in fact. Indeed, I know. Well, we're here. Nice talking with you, Gilgamesh. Yep, thanks for the ride. See you later, Charon, or Urshanabi, or whatever.
Nice.
Hey, John. In all your research, it sounds like you've done quite a bit of research on this. Like, what do you think, in your opinion, anyway? I know there's probably not enough evidence to really make a sound decision on it, but where do you think the flood legend originated, in your opinion?
Probably with a Proto-Sumerian culture. There's evidence for a historical flood in the area.
Of what scale?
Let's see. Of a province in Sumer. I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce this word. It looks like it's Shurupak.
Okay.
So there was a culture there at one point, and it got wiped out by the Euphrates River flooding really bad. And I think either that or like the breakup of a glacial lake in the area even earlier was probably the inspiration for the Sumerian flood myth.
So they just attached like meaning to it and used it as a way of telling stories and passing on morals and stuff like that.
Yeah, pretty much. I get the feeling that in ancient cultures, these stories weren't necessarily regarded as literally true so much as an interesting way to tell a story. It seems like it's later when people start like attaching so much meaning to this that it becomes this thing that they'll fight and kill and die for.
Absolutely.
What about Zoroastrianism? Where do you put that in the whole grand scheme of things?
Actually, I don't know too much about that beyond the fact that it exists and that Mithra is a thing to them and sort of the very, very basics of that belief system.
Okay, because a lot of people have been attributing Zoroastrian as one of the earlier mythologies that started differentiating between good and evil. You know, there was the good god and, of course, his counterpart, and which, of course, would have evolved into or given us our God versus the devil thing.
Well, you know, the Assyrians certainly predate the Bible. The thing is, they use that winged crest, you know, the winged disc design that you see in ancient Egypt and Sumer and whatnot. Theirs is stylistically more developed than the Sumerian version, so I think that is more likely to be the original, because, I mean, the artwork is essentially more crude and hence more primitive.
Interesting.
Also, the Genesis account, like it clearly has elements of like poetry and storytelling in itself, right?
Oh, sure.
Like
I mean,
it's like
foreshadowing doesn't happen in real life.
Yeah,
you know,
and it's almost like a story told to like kids that are coming of age that sort of educates them
yeah,
on, like, on
especially
sex.
Adam and Eve, you know, and like allegory of like serpents and forbidden fruit.
Yeah, euphemism for a penis, and like basically, you know, like yeah, paradise would be innocence, right? And when you have sex for the first time, you can't undo that. You know now. But it's like,
everything's different, and you have to like move into being an agrarian society.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, and you also got to think back in those days, they didn't have an explanation for a bunch of stuff. And if you actually read the Bible, what you find is that the Jews are constantly trying to explain why bad fucking shit happens to them all the time. They're like, we're the chosen people. Oh, we all died. Ah, fuck. What did we do wrong?
God was mad at us.
Because they have to
we
be
built our civilization at the crossroads between several much larger empires. Duh.
No, they have to be the chosen people, no matter what bad things happen to them. So they
of course, because they have to reinforce their own egos while facing the reality of the repeated subjugation.
So things back in those days was childbirth is very painful. Well, it's a wonderful thing. Why does it hurt? Well, let's make up some shit.
Because God says so.
Yeah, why does all this bad stuff happen to us? Well, it used to be great, and then that stupid bitch fucking ate the apple, and now everything went to hell. And that's
punishment, you see.
That's why we have disease and you know all these different things. I mean,
and that's why women should make me sandwiches.
Delete that part, Kev.
I love you, John.
Well, you know, it's because the Bible says so. Fuck.
You know what? It's extremely sexist as well, which I gotta be perfectly honest with you. If we're talking like 2,000-3,000 years ago, me and these Kevins would be sitting around writing a book and be like, you know what? These bitches are gonna be doing some shit for us. They're gonna be doing.
I wonder if they had sandwiches back
God says, "Make me a sandwich."
Well, I'm going to have to rate this episode R rating because there's been so many swears in it.
It would, though. That's it, though. It's not even just Christianity. It's all of them. It's written by men, and that's why men have all the power and why women are supposed to be subservient. And Nancy's the only female in the room, so I think she should speak up.
I think the conversation is just so far beyond me. I'm better off listening and being quiet.
Are you familiar with the I guess, ancient myths that kind of spawn Judaism and Christianity. It's like what's that? I can't remember
when
what
did it
that
originate.
I can't remember what that saying is. It's something like Christianity is the son of Judaism and Mormonism is like the retarded little brother or something like that.
No, actually, I was, although my family is Jewish and they observed a lot of the holidays, I never had a religious upbringing. So it was only as an adult that I began to understand, or at least be exposed to a lot of things. When I became a Unitarian Universalist and ran the Sunday school, that's when I had to read the books and so forth. I had been aware of a lot of it, but I still have never read the Bible, and so all of it's familiar to me because I've heard a number of people discuss it over the years. But it's not.
You're not missing out.
It's not anything I've immersed myself in.
You've never read the Bible?
No.
It's not even a good read for a literal.
My God, I must have read the New Testament at least probably 24 times, and I read the Old Testament maybe like 3 because it's just so fucked. It's just
it is.
The Old Testament is so bad.
Testament more interesting.
The Old Testament is so bad and so long. The New Testament is like, love everybody and let's be socialists, and the Old Testament is like, I'm going to murder your babies because you didn't circumcise yourself. It's just horrible. Absolutely terrible.
No, I think the whole lesson to learn about all this is, as atheists, we don't look at these myths as necessarily with hatred. We don't like the effects they've had on society, but we also understand that it was our first attempt as an infant species to understand the world around us. So in a way, you can't really be mad at them.
But it wasn't, though. Animism, according to recorded history, would probably be our first attempt.
Yeah, but animism kind of spawned these kind of religions, right?
Yeah, it kind of is. I mean, if you just think about logical fallacies, like God of the gaps. They didn't understand shit, so in order to get a population to listen to you, like, you got to think about being a man back in those days.
Yeah.
If I've got the answers, I'm getting all the food, I'm getting all the sex,
That's right.
getting all the stuff. All I got to do is make shit up that they can't disprove, and that's exactly what they did.
You have to come up with a reasonable answer to a question that the population will accept.
Genesis is absolutely fucking ridiculous. They got plants before the sun and all this other crap. And then they say, cosmic microwave background radiation proves the Bible was right. Let there be light. Yeah, like 400,000 years after.
Yeah, but if several thousand years ago you would have said cosmic backwave radiation, people would have said, huh? But if you say that the stars are twinkly points of light in the sky, that makes sense.
Well, that's my point. Yeah, exactly. So my question is, regarding like things like the tree of knowledge, does that exist elsewhere?
Good question.
Because the tree of knowledge is the thing I'm
tree of knowledge and the
interested
tree of life.
As I understand it, the tree of knowledge and tree of immortality both exist in the Babylonian Sumerian versions, and heck, there's also versions of these like magical fruit trees in a lot of different cultures, particularly like the Chinese and stuff, and like Sun Wukong stealing the forbidden fruit from. I forget their names, but the emperor and empress of the universe.
It's just funny. Like, we always make this joke regarding Christianity and Judaism and whatnot with the whole tree of knowledge is, don't learn shit. Pisses God off. Well, yeah, because you learn shit. You don't believe in God anymore. So I posted this link in my group a while back, and you commented on it, and so did a few other pretty well-educated people. There were some serious flaws with it, which is why I posted it, because I was kind of skeptical.
You like those logical fallacies.
Yeah, I was really skeptical about the link. I wasn't 100% sure. But anyways, you went on and made some really good comments about Hercules coming from, was it Samson? And like all these different characters coming from older characters. Like,
hold on, you're saying Hercules is older?
They came from the same archetype, which was probably laid down by Gilgamesh.
I was hoping maybe you could list some of them, because I really, really enjoyed those comments, actually. And then I looked
most
them up.
of the hero archetypes are based on Gilgamesh.
Like Moses. Moses was from that dude whose name starts with an S, and I can't say it.
Oh, well, his origin story is based on the origin story of Sargon of Akkad.
Yeah, he was in like a wreath basket and some other crap.
Sauron?
Sealed with bitumen.
You say Sauron or Sargon?
Sargon.
I told
Sauron's
you,
the one with the
Lord
ring,
of the Rings. I told you guys. It's a true story. I swear. I got Hobbit fossils to prove it.
So go ahead, John.
Oh.
So yeah, just if you want to elaborate on that, that would be great.
I lost my train of thought. Where are we?
Just the characters from the Bible that were actually based on previous characters,
Like
like
Hercules,
Moses.
Samson.
Moses comes from
yeah.
somebody else.
Well, Adam and Eve, and I'm pretty sure that Yahweh is based on Enlil from Sumerian and Babylonian mythology. The serpent in the Genesis account seems to be based on Enki. And, later iterations, lots are based on Gilgamesh. There aren't a whole lot of direct correlations, more like archetypal characters being based on other archetypal characters, or just sort of filling in that role
The
that
strong
was
man.
laid down by a different culture.
The liberator, the strong man.
Right. Yeah, you notice they never say exactly what Samson did while he was judge of Israel, aside from all this, heroic nonsense.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. How about somebody more recent? Was there not a correlation, but is there
Analog?
a similar character to Jesus in some of the other myths?
Well, there's elements here and there, but he's not like directly based on anyone in particular. And there's plenty of misinformation that incorrectly identifies things, so it's hard to sift through it all. But there are elements of Dionysus and other like the whole virgin birth concept and things like that. But it's not as directly based as the zeitgeist made it out to be.
Oh, yeah.
Quite a bit of that in his historicity of Jesus. He goes through, and I can't remember one part of it, but I know in going through the book when we had him here as a lecturer, he was able to tie an awful lot of the myth and from different cultures into the Jesus concept as well.
Oh. Well, thank you so much, John, for all your time here on the show. We certainly appreciate it. If somebody wants to learn more about you and what you do, and where would they go?
Well, most of my stuff's on my DeviantArt, which is hamo1701.deviantart. So HAMO1701. And they should definitely keep a lookout for the Falling Star. Find it on Facebook and subscribe so you can get updates and take a look at some of the art, because I'm wrapping up production on that here pretty soon, and it's gonna kind of blow some minds, I think.
The Falling Star on Facebook. Okay, we'll make sure to follow that.
The Falling Star.
The Falling Star on Facebook. And if somebody wants to learn more about the subject, is there some resources you would recommend?
To learn more about parallels?
Yes.
Well, I would just read the differing accounts and draw your own parallels.
There we go. Do your own research. Good piece of
Yes,
advice.
absolutely.
Before I let you go, John, can I get you to say one thing for me? Can I get you to say, "Hi, my name is Jon Hammond, and I took a left at the Valley"?
Hi, my name is Jon Hammond, and I took a left at the Valley.
And that was Jon Hammond. Very interesting interview, and it's going to take me probably forever to edit all this. It should be fine nonetheless. John really wanted to try to push his latest project. He really wanted to push the Falling Star, the project that he's working on. So let's listen for a minute or so of what that's going to sound like.
Before the beginning, before there was light, there was darkness. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. But that, of course, is only part of the story. So God created a host of angels and 7 archangels to command them. They would gather the darkness whilst the Lord created the universe. First came Samael. God bestowed tremendous power onto Samael, for he had a very special purpose in mind for his little light-bringer. Next was Michael, whom also received tremendous power. Raphael and Gabriel were next. Raphael was given more strength than his brothers, and Gabriel was gifted with incredible speed. Ariel and Uriel were created with perfect memory and as reflections of feminine beauty and youth and age. The last of the archangels was Azrael, and God created him with a pang of sadness, knowing what the future would hold for poor Azrael. When the call went out among the angelic hosts to take up arms against the darkness, the archangels assembled proudly before the throne of God. Michael was made second in command with Raphael as his aide. Gabriel, being the fastest, became a messenger. Ariel, Uriel, and Azrael were appointed as advisors. But the archangel Samael was sent to the front to play music for the troops. God forbade him to fight the darkness. Samael was angry. Power coursed through him. To simply play his music was a waste of his talents. Samael yearned to win glory for himself in battle.
Am I not more powerful than the others? Was I not the first created? Why give me the power and then forbid me to use it? I should be leading this army.
Samael began to nurse a silent grudge against his creator. Thus the heavenly host departed, and the war against the darkness began.
And that's going to be very interesting to see. It's essentially the stories from the angels from their point of view. So we're looking forward to hearing that work from Jon. We'll keep an eye on that for sure. Thank you so much for being with us today on the show. Thank you to Kevin, Tyler, and Nancy at my co-host as usual. Coming up next week we'll have David Silverman, the president of the American Atheist Association and Firebrand Atheist, and one of my favorites. That should be great. We should be doing a show on climate change real soon too. We'll talk about St. Paul, because we always talk about Jesus in the Bible. We never think about the influence of Paul on the Bible. With our friend David Fitzgerald. We also have Satanist, who will be joining us towards the end of the month, just in time for Halloween. And of course, our Halloween episode, which will have our friends from the Legion of Reason join us to give us some ghost stories. And of course, in November, we'll have our friends Aaron Raw. Our old friend Aaron Raw is coming back, talking to us about his book he just wrote. You can always follow us on Facebook, on Twitter. You can follow us at leftatvalley.com. You can send me an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. You have something you want to say, you want to come on the show, you have something, your suggestion, or even just a death threat or a letter saying how much we suck or not, feel free to send it to us. We're always willing to listen to what you guys are saying. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time.
History denies evolution, hates science, promotes mystery. I'd rather see the truth than to bask in my own ignorance. Rather be alone than surrounded by damn idiots. As long as there's a breath in my body, you can bet your last dollar I'll be working hard fighting this problem. Religion is a disease, it comes from culture, only true on a regional scale. Science is universal. Were you to say that Horus isn't real, but Jesus is, or Zeus, Thor, Mithra, Vishnu, you don't believe in them? I think the reason is apparent. You do what you're told and believe in the God assigned by your parents. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, a heathen. I call it how I see it. I say it's ignorance and you just call it faith and unsubstantiated claims. That's something to be ashamed. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. Now let me take a sec. Don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that thousands of children are raped by priests, and since they're holy men of God, they get away scot-free. And the Pope does his very best to keep it on the hush. Don't wanna affect business, he loves money too much. We know that they love the kids, but how the fuck can we protect them while they planning to molest them? We teaching them to respect them. Fuck that. The system is broke down, working backwards, and the only action or tactic I plan to practice now is to attack them. The parties of God's hands are bloodstained, millions of murders by believers, and they're all in God's name. And let me take a sec, don't mean to sound so hateful, but I swear to God, pun intended, I find it disgraceful that many atheists are told to be quiet. You're not alone, speak your mind, time to let it be known. I'm proud to be an atheist, a skeptic, a non-believer, an infidel, to be